Don't let the ghosts and the ghouls disturb you.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Josh from Nightmare on Woodsboro Lake, back with another guest review. And today I'm joined by yet again another killer guest. Speaking, in fact, we have Jordana from Pretty Killer Podcast. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good, Josh. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. I just got off work a little bit ago, and I'm in my comfort zone now. You know, horror is like my safe place. So
I know, I get that feeling.
So for the viewers out there who might not know you, would you mind giving us a little insight on Pretty Killer Podcast and everything that you're a part of?
Sure. So my love for horror has been pretty much my whole life. Since a little tiny kid, I've had this interest in horror, and it's like you just said, it's always been a comfort. So during the pandemic, I was like, I really would like to, connect with people. I kind of missed the human interaction, being on lockdown. And I just found myself talking to people about horror. So I'm like, why don't I do a podcast, about horror? I really didn't know what the hell I was doing. So that was like, it turned into like a horror page and eventually delivered a podcast, but I think that kind of worked in my favor. So I'm happy with how things panned out, I guess.
Heck yeah. I mean, I know I'm in the same boat. I just like dove head in. I'm like, or like head first. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I had watched other people do stuff and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, and I feel the same way. I wanted to connect with other people, especially people that share the same interests, of horror. Because I feel so alone out here. I have like a friend that I've made that's in my band that is into horror, but like other than that, like I feel so alone in the horror community out here is like feels like it's non-existent. So like I took to Instagram and I was like, I started a page, then I was like, it became a YouTube. And now I feel so connected with so many people and it's amazing. But yeah, that's so awesome.
And I love that you say that, because that's another reason why I want to.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Did I freeze up too?
Yeah, it kind of froze up a little bit. And that totally could be on my end because like I said, this is where I'm recording in a new area, if people didn't notice. Now that's better. That's better.
Yes. Okay. I didn't know. I didn't want to I didn't know if I was freezing or if you were, but that's like a huge thing. Cause I kind of felt like a loner growing up, being into horror, because all of my girlfriends were like, Titanic and, like all of that stuff. And I'm like, hey, you want to go see Halloween H2O? And they're like, no, I want to go see Bring It On. And I'm like, okay.
For sure. Like, I'm into other genres like comedy and action and stuff, but like, I don't know. I just have like this obsession. It feels like an obsession. And people like look at me weird, like sometimes because I'm like talking about horror all the time, or like people at work, I'm like, hey, you guys gonna go see Halloween Kills? Or, I'm looking forward to Scream 6. And they're like, okay. I'm like, okay. I know I'm not appealing to the same crowd.
Great conversation.
So I feel you 100%. All my other friends are like not into horror. I got that one bandmate that is, and we're gonna go see Jeepers Creepers 4, like Reborn, together here this month. I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, so like another question for you. What what got you started in horror? Like, at a young, like, was it at a very young age? What was like your first like horror movie that kind of like set it off where you were like, oh my God, I love this. Like, I need more of this in my life.
It's gonna be weird, but like the first thing that kind of sparked my interest was my grandparents had a Disney book, and it was The Haunted Mansion.
Oh, nice.
Just like the imagery in the book of like all this different scenes, and it scared me, but I was like super intrigued. Like I wasn't, like I didn't want to look at it, but I think the movie that kind of like catapulted my interest into like full blown, I knew I liked scary stuff, was Jaws.
Nice.
Like, and I'm from Orlando, so the beach, pools, I swam quite a bit, so I had that like irrational fear of the great white in the deep end scenario. When like you're swimming as a kid and you just like look over and you're like, oh my God, there's a shark.
For sure. Like I even got that way in like the public pool. I was like, we'd go to hotels and stuff, and we'd go do the pool at night, and the water's like kind of murky and like the light on in there. I was like still like afraid that for some irrational reason that like a shark wasn't going to get me.
Yeah.
And yeah, Jaws scared the crap out of me as a kid.
Yeah.
I remember going. Did you ever get a chance to go to like Universal Studios and like do like the Jaws attraction as a kid?
I did.
Yeah, that was insane. Like that whole tram, like that you get to go see King Kong and Jaws and like and stuff like that. I thought that was crazy, and just like Jaws coming up right next to the tram, and like
Yeah.
as a kid I could not handle it, but
I was terrified. Like I wouldn't go. Like we would go stand in line, and then I would get there and I'd be like, nope. And my mom's like, you're going on this ride. Like we didn't just wait. So we finally went on it, and oh my God, like seeing the fin come up by the boat and like the whole, just all of it. I loved it. And I had the opportunity to go to the first year of Halloween Horror Nights. They called it Fright Nights. And then they had the Jaws attraction running at night.
oh,
I know. And I had I had someone who was going to take me. It was a family friend, and my grandmother. She was like, absolutely not. Like, you're not going to that. And she shot me down.
jeez. Oh man,
I'm angry.
I've only been to one Hollywood Horror Night, and that was back in 2017, but I loved it. I would love to go back eventually at some point and do that again.
What
uh,
houses were there when you went?
they had Saw. um, they had this one that it was like the holidays. It was like different holidays played out in like horror scenes.
Yeah.
um there was like The Walking Dead, of course, and what was the other one? And then there was like, it was the Titans of Terror. So there was like Freddy, or like Jason, Freddy, um Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all kinds of that kind of stuff going on at the time.
Yeah.
And then they had Chucky driving the tram.
Oh my God. That would have been so amazing.
That was such a so fun. I have to say that the effort that they put into those attractions and like the mazes are insane. Um, the Saw one, it takes you literally through like the first scene of Saw at one point.
Oh, wow.
Like the first movie, and you're like in there, and it smells like dead decaying flesh and like poop. You're just like, this is legit. Like, yeah. Oh my God, did they pay somebody to come in here and actually like drop a deuce? Because it smells real.
So funny you say that, because like when we went and it was Texas Chainsaw, it was hot. It was like, it smelled like urine.
Ooh.
And it was just the most foul smell, but like in a weird way, it's perfect because it's like you're actually in the scenario, you're actually in the movie. And it's funny that you said the holidays, because we're prepping to go Tuesday.
Nice.
Yeah, we're doing like Universal and Halloween Horror Nights, like a family vacay, but we were watching old videos and we stumbled upon the holiday one, and I was like, that is such a cool house. Like I didn't even know that they did it that year.
Yeah, yeah, and the one I went to was in California.
Yeah.
Um, I haven't been to the Florida one. I Up until like 2 years ago, I hadn't been to Florida.
Hmm.
And I finally went to Disney World in Florida with my wife. We went on our like first like vacation by ourselves.
Oh, nice.
But it was really fun. And I'd love to check out like the Universal Studios out there too. I wonder if it's any different. Like I can't compare because I haven't been, but I
Yeah.
really enjoyed the California one. It was a lot of fun.
Do you like rides? Do you like coasters and all that stuff?
Oh yeah.
You would love Orlando. They have like Velocicoaster now. They have Hulk. They have Hagrid's for like Harry Potter fans. Like I love rides, so I'm so stoked to get on a coaster and just
Heck yeah.
yeah.
Nice. Nice. That's exciting. I hope you guys have a great time. And so the reason that you and I are here together today is you and I have decided on a movie we wanted to review together.
Yes.
And that happens to be The Strangers Prey at Night, released back in 2018, and directed by, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but Johannes Roberts. I guess he's done like 7 Meters Down, Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City, and some other films. But I really, really enjoyed The Strangers Prey at Night. Actually, the first time I saw it was in theaters with my wife.
Yeah.
And we live out in the country. So we were like, after we saw it and went home,
Oh.
we're secluded. Like, God knows if someone like got into our house and tortured us, or
Yeah.
like, uh, especially my wife, she gets a little more freaked out than I do. Like me, my mind's like prepped for any scenario. I'm just like, I've watched so many horror movies and like so many shows that I'm like, I don't know exactly in the moment if it'll go well, but like I have all these thoughts in my head, like I do this and I do that, and I would definitely not do that. Like,
I'm the same way. I'm like, maybe all these years of being obsessed with horror has given us the advantage if we're ever put in that situation that we could totally just be like, okay, we exit this way. We don't run in the house and go up the stairs. You know what I mean? Like we have these rules. But that's creepy though, that like you guys went to go see it and then you go back in the country, because that's like the whole premise of it is terrifying, that you're just randomly picked.
right,
You know?
right. Yeah, it just like I want to just say like the scariest line in the film to me, like it might not be scary to some people, but they're like, why are you doing this? And they're like, in the first one it was because you were home, and in this one it's like, why not? Like, some people are like that in real life. It's just like, well, I just felt like it. Like there doesn't have to be a motive. I mean, motives are great, like, but some people just do it for the hell of it, and it's scary.
It's terrifying. And I think that alone is like, because like you said, it could be anywhere. It could be just anyone in the vicinity of your home or wherever like you are. Someone could just lose it and be like, yeah, I'm gonna go do it. And you're you know what I mean? Like you're there, it's the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, yeah. And I find myself, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but I find myself like I'll be driving, I'll pass all these houses and I'll look over and I'll be like, I wonder how many of these houses there is somebody right now being either killed or tortured in their basement. You never know.
Yes, I'm glad that you said that, because I do that too. I'm like, man, I wonder like what's going on over in this neighborhood. And like sometimes you hear gunshots though, and I'm like, oh God.
Right. And I've known people in my life that have done some horrendous things. Like my dentist I had in a small town I grew up in, He stabbed his wife 12 times with a pair of scissors and dumped her body in their pool in the backyard. And this dude was working my mouth for years. Like,
your dentist did that?
yeah.
I'm not like laughing because it's terrifying and that's a crappy situation, but like, oh my God.
Yeah, you never know. Like, it could be anyone.
That's too close to home. Like, oh, this guy that did my filling, he stabbed his wife.
Right? Like, it could have been like the wrong day. I could have been in there getting my teeth cleaned,
Yeah. And like you like he asked you a question and you answered and accidentally like bit him and then he killed you. I'm just kidding. But like,
Shit.
you know what I mean? Like scenarios like that, you just never know. And it also teaches you to be aware of your surroundings, because sometimes we get so comfortable in our normal day life because it's like the same repetitive thing. It's always good to just kind of be aware and self-aware of yourself when you go do things, because you just don't know.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what makes these movies so freaky, is how realistic. I do love like a supernatural movie, or like a zombie flick, or like any of those. Like, I love those, but like, I love that these movies are like, they could happen. This stuff could happen. Like,
Absolutely.
like Scream is one of my favorite franchises, and that could easily happen to anyone. Like, the inspiration for that film was the Gainesville Ripper in Florida, like stuff that was going on at the time, and like how he would like pose people's bodies in certain ways after he got finished killing them. And I'm from Washington State, so like we had like Ted Bundy is like the big one, and like he looked so normal and everybody thought he was so charismatic and like friendly, and look what he was doing behind the scenes. So it's just these movies like this get me like the most, because I'm like, it could happen to any of us, anytime, anywhere.
Totally.
But I love, like, I leave this up to the guest if they want to or not, but like, would you mind giving like your back of the DVD like summary of this film?
Sure. I'm on the spot. I kind of like tend to get a little like absent-minded, but to, back of the DVD. So a family of four, are on their way to take their troubled daughter to a boarding school. And they, tried to have one last family, hurrah. And they were the unlucky victims of, Dollface 1, 2, and Sackhead.
yeah, right. They don't really have names for these people.
That's how I like labeled it in my notes, was like Dollface 1, Dollface 2, and Sackhead.
Want to be Jason? No.
Yeah, exactly. Want to be Jason. And then, I mean, like, I'd love to give more, but it's just such a, you want more of a plot, but there really isn't, because like it's the general gist of them going to drop her off, and they're trying to like mend whatever is broken, and then they run into some nasty people and pretty much fight for their lives. Yeah,
and it's crazy just how it escalates very quickly once they're they settle down at so the family ends up going to like this trailer park, and settling down in like one of these trailers that I think their aunt or uncle or somebody like runs this trailer park. And they stay there for the night on the way to this boarding school. And it's just crazy how quickly, once they're there and settled in, like things take off. There's not really any downtime once they get there. Like you do have like the diner scene, like the daughter out there smoking, and like you have some little like moments between like dad and daughter, mom and daughter, like her relationship with her brother, which seems pretty strained too, at the start of this film. And um, pretty soon you get like this creepy. I think that first scene that you really see. Well, I guess we're skipping. I'm skipping over things. You do have this scene where like this couple are in the trailer before they get there, and they're killed in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And I think you and I were chatting, and you were like, "They don't kill the dog, do they?" I'm like, "I don't think so."
That was like my main concern when it started, and I saw the dog. I'm like, oh, no way. And then you said that, I was like, is he being coy with me? Like, the dog's gonna die. And then, like, when I saw the dog run out afterwards, like, whatever, I was like, oh, thank God.
Right, because you and I went with it because they didn't show anything, or like you didn't hear the dog howl or anything. Like, we're like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe we're just gonna say that the dog made it, and then
Yeah.
eventually you find out the dog did make it. Thank God.
Yes.
Like, for
I hate that in horror. Like, that's my one thing that I don't like is when they kill dogs.
right, right. I had a hard time watching I Am Legend when he had to like strangle his own dog.
Oh my God. Like, tears for that. And I no matter, I know it's not real,
Right.
but I always get so choked up when it comes to dogs. Like, I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just like, I knew it was fake, but like it hit me because like, being like a fur dad,
Yeah.
uh, and having like my boy Kane, it's just like I couldn't imagine myself ever bringing myself to doing that. Like, I mean, I understand like in the situation that he was in, he was turning into a zombie.
Yeah.
He wanted to like put his best friend out of his misery, and you could see the tears in his eyes when he was doing it. Like, but it just still hurt so deep.
I know, because you feel that. I'm the same way. Like, today I was taking selfies of my dog in the chair because the sunlight was hitting him perfectly. And I'm like, hold on. Like, you are gorgeous. Let me take a picture.
Pose for me.
Yeah, she's like ignoring me. And I'm like, that's perfect. Keep it going.
Can we get some more lighting and a fan in here?
Little whiskers blow back.
You're beautiful, darling.
He was so annoyed with me, and I'm just like, okay, I'll stop.
Great. But I guess now that I've said that, we can jump back into where I was going with this, and like that first scene where they have like this run-in with Dollface. We don't really see her face.
No.
And she's like, "Is Tara home?" And they're
Mhm.
like, "There's no Tara here," and she just kind of like leaves.
Yeah.
We're just like, okay, that was really weird, and we don't get to see that person's face, so we're like, she wasn't wearing a mask at the time, I'm guessing, because if she had shown up in a mask, they'd be like, WTF, like.
Hell no. Yeah, like that would be a hard no. I'd already be calling cops if I saw that.
So she must have been like showing her true face that first time around.
I think that part stood out to me because when she came up, it was that eerie shot and I don't mean I'm not, but like there was a lot of shots throughout this movie that I loved. I loved the way that the angles, because when she came to the door, it was just very like, it was like dark, but you could still see like the outline of her. And the way it was shot, it was so eerie. And I would have been like, no, and close, but I just, you know what I mean? Like no mask, but still it was eerie without the mask.
Right? Like, no Tara here.
No. Good night. I'm calling the cops.
We're deadbolting this. Oh, there's no deadbolt. Well, we're putting the furniture in front of the door. No.
I would. I totally would.
Don't get me wrong. I've had some nights where there's been some like creepy ass sounds coming to my house, and like I pulled my TV stand in front of my door. I'm like, just to give me warning, like, because one of like my worst fears, I'll tell you, is being killed in my sleep.
Yeah.
Like having someone get the jump on me and not knowing. So like I'm like, well, if I put something in front of my door and they're pushing on the door, that gives me time to wake up, grab my gun,
Yeah.
and go out there and handle the situation, versus like if they creep in and my door's quiet.
Yeah.
They could come right in the middle of the night, slit my throat, like, and I wouldn't know the wiser until like I'm waking up gagging on my blood.
Yeah, that's terrifying. That's one of mine too. And I'm by the door. Like
Oh,
I'm on the side of the bed by the door. I'm like, thanks, honey. Like, I'm glad that you're putting the tough one by the door.
right? Like, because like I wouldn't be afraid if someone broke in my house if I had a warning. Like,
Exactly.
I just need to know you're there so that I can prepare myself. But just the not knowing and someone coming in like a ghost in the night, hell no.
It's so scary. That's why I want to get a Ring camera too. I don't want to go off track, but I would love to have one to see like what's going on outside. You know what I
Right.
mean? While you're sleeping, and to have some sort of like alarm system, because it's terrifying. Like we woke up one morning and there was like early, like 3 o'clock, and there was a trailblazer in our cul-de-sac, and there like the Drex that we had just got robbed.
Oh, geez.
And we found that out, and the description of the car was the same exact one that was in, right by our front door. And I was like, Jesus, like that's terrifying.
Right. And I lived in a neighborhood before the one we live in now where I had a guy. So we see all these lights and
Yeah.
like from like police and stuff outside, and we're like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
And my wife and I like kind of peek out, and we found out this guy literally down the street had made his way to by our house right across the street from us,
Yeah.
with his insides coming out. Like this dude had his gut slashed open by someone, and we found out that the police went on a chase. They saw someone waiting in a van down at the end of the road watching, and as soon as they went down, like the van sped off, like, and they went on a high pursuit. So this guy literally slit this dude's stomach open or something, and he was just watching the aftermath, like as this guy was stumbling down the road with his like intestines coming out.
Where do you live? Like all the stuff that happens, it's crazy. Like your dentist and gut guy coming down the street.
Well, the dentist was in a different town, like it was on another end of the state, but
Yeah.
the event with the guy with the stomach was 2 years ago, and this was near like Spokane, Washington.
Okay.
It's that part of like the state it's very rough. I live outside of Spokane now.
Yeah.
I live like out in the country, but like in town though, you see some crazy crap going on.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, I don't want to live in Spokane. I am fine living like 30 minutes north of Spokane. I'm like, I don't want to be any closer.
No. Oh my God. Like, and it's not, but like, it's just so crazy. Like just all these stories. It sounds like your own horror movie.
Yeah, it really was. And like we were like tripping that night. Like I was up like all night because I'm like, if this dude, I don't know if they caught him yet, or and the fact that he was, if this was, because I wasn't sure at the time if it was the guy that was sitting in the van.
Yeah.
That's the guy who did it, but the fact that he sped off when police were trying to like come up and approach his vehicle
Yeah.
had me believing that this guy was probably the one who did it, and he was just trying to see that this guy, what happened next, like if this guy was going to identify him, or
Yeah.
like just looking at his handiwork, because this guy like literally like got like his stuff coming out his front end,
Like Scream, like the boyfriend in Scream.
yeah, like it like legit was like seeing a horror movie, and it was literally right across the road from my house, like, and the trailer right across from us at the time.
That is insanity. And you can't help but to feel like not violated, but just like it too close to home.
Yeah.
Like no, I would be the same way. I would have been up all night. I would have been checking my phone, seeing if any news stories came up. You know what I mean? Like I would have been the same exact way. So I that's why I think these movies are so scary for me, because like I love horror, but when it's like the super realistic format, like this type of stuff, it gets the gears grinding in your brain. You're just like, it's terrifying.
Yeah. And like, for a long time, I was like, before this, like I had been like, Man, it'd be so cool to survive in my own real life horror story.
Seriously.
And then I like this stuff happens. I'm like, oh fuck. No. No. Like,
But we need more final guys, so you would be a great final guy.
thank you. Yeah, that I actually got to meet one of my favorite final guys recently. Um,
Oh,
I went and worked on the set of Never Hike Alone 2.
oh, that's amazing.
And Tom Matthews, I don't know if you know who Tom Matthews is.
Is he now okay? So Never Hike Alone was the fan film, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yes. Now, was he in that one or was he?
Yes, yes. He made an appearance at the end of the first movie. It was a cameo because he's from Friday the 13th, part 6. Tommy Jarvis.
Yep.
And he was also in Return of the Living Dead.
Yes, I know who you're talking about. Yes, he is like the well-known final guy of the 80s.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And,
I'm horrible with names, so now that you're putting it all together, yes.
I got to like work with him and got to chat with him, and it was like a dream come true. Like, I'm like, dude, you're my favorite final guy. Like, you were so badass. You chained Jason down to the bottom of the lake in part 6.
Yeah.
And I just loved your character's growth from like part 4, part 5 to part 6. Like, I was like, this is like a dream come true. And like, he was just so down to earth and so cool. And I was like geeking out so hardcore on the inside. Like, I kept a pretty straight face out on the outside, but like inside I was just like a giddy schoolgirl, just like like, oh my God, you're real.
I'm talking to you. I'm not like that. I would have been freaking out. I've been like, you're great. I love you.
I want you to come home with me.
Just live with me. You'd be like,
it's almost like a girlfriend. Come meet my folks. Like,
my wife is okay with it. She's fine. Just please come home with me. But that's so cool that you got to do that. Not a lot of people can say that they got to do that.
Yeah, and it all like sparked because I had the director of the film on for like an interview on here.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, hey, like we'll be down in Washington shooting some scenes, like, because I told him like I would die if I got to meet Tom Matthews. And like,
yeah,
he's like, well, come help out on set. You could have the chance to. I was like,
oh my God.
I was like, yes, I will spit shine your shoes. I don't care what you have me doing. Like, I will come down there. Like,
I will serve you whatever craft food is there. I will serve it to you. That's so cool though that he offered that to you.
Yeah, my mind was blown, and like we corresponded for a while after that, and he was like, hey, here's the dates that we're going to be down there.
Yeah.
Message me closer to the time and I'll give you the coordinates. And I was like, this is really happening. And it got real. And at a later date, I'll disclose what I actually got to do on the film. Because I actually got more of an important job than I anticipated.
Wow.
And it blew my mind because I had never done the job before, but they're like, hey, can you do this? And I was like, they're like, this is what it entails. This is how you do it. I was like, yeah. I'm like, this is a big job, but yeah. So
like, way to be put on the spot, but that's amazing. And to say that you were on the set of Never Hike Alone too, because I loved Never Hike Alone.
Yes. It was part 2. They did release a prequel in between part 1 and part 2, Never Hike in the Snow. And that was a really good one too. It kind of gave some like some pre stuff, especially revolving around Tommy Jarvis's character. And like, they brought back Vinny. I don't want to butcher his last name, but he was from part 6 as well. He was in Never Hike in the Snow, reprising as the now sheriff of Crystal Lake. And in the sixth movie, he was like the deputy. So the sheriff gets killed in the part six. So he, I guess I'm assuming, just stepped into that role and then became the sheriff.
Yeah.
But yeah, they brought back a few legacy characters from the actual films, and I was like, these guys are legit. Like, this movie is legit. Like these fan films these days are like insane, you know?
But it shows how much they love the movie. You know what I mean? Like and that's amazing that they get that opportunity, because I think when we see a lot of the remakes that I've seen lately, I think they're good. But when you see like someone's take on their favorite movie franchise, it's just completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you haven't checked it out, like, do you like Chucky?
So I do love Chucky, but I'll be super transparent. I didn't watch anything past 3, and I did watch the remake, and I just started the show. So I'm on season 1.
If you ever get the chance, Tony Biz Films has Charles is like their fan film for Chucky.
Oh.
But it is, you don't have to see anything. You literally, I guess you don't even really have to see anything besides the first one, really, to understand what's going on in this film. And it's a really dark take on Child's Play and like Chucky.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. And if anyone else out there hasn't seen it, go check it out. It's on YouTube. It's free. Definitely worth a watch. But now that I took us on Ozzy Osbourne's crazy train and like went way off track here, we'll get back into the film that we're here for.
I just wrote that down, and I wrote down Never Hike in the Snow because I didn't watch that one. So those,
nice.
Yes, I'm gonna definitely watch those.
Heck yeah, for sure. Those are so good. They actually, in my opinion, they sit right alongside the actual movies. Like, I feel like they belong in the franchise. Like,
perfect.
So with The Strangers Pray at Night, we have, there's this whole scene. They're trying to have a family night. This is like, I think, post that girl showing up to the door. They're trying to do a family night. Daughter's not really having it. She's trying to listen to her music. She's like, I don't want to be a part of this. You guys are like shipping me off. Screw you guys. I don't want anything to do with you guys. So she kind of takes off on her own. So they send son out to find her as well. And he ends up they end up stumbling on the dead bodies in the trailer.
Yes.
Which ends up, that's like their aunt or uncle and stuff like there. So that's like, oh crap. Like, and like the phones are disconnected there, and like, they're like, so the son ends up, they go back with him and the sister, go back to mom and dad. And he's like straight up, there is a dead body, or there's dead bodies in this trailer. Like, I'm not kidding. This is not a joke. Come with me. You have to see this. So daughter stays with mom, and dad and son go to investigate.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, mom and daughter are sitting ducks.
Yes, they are.
Because we have the return of our good old friendly Dollface. And he's like trying to attack them with like a butcher knife, going all Michael Myers on them.
Oh yes.
It leads to them getting trapped in the bathroom. And this is where we get like our first like on screen like kill, not like, like in the dark.
Yeah.
Daughter gets to escape through the hatch, like in the ceiling on the trailer.
Yeah.
And mom gets just, she gets it.
Yeah. I was like, that scene was brutal. I was like, I didn't think that she was gonna die so early. You know what I mean? Like, were you thinking the same thing?
On like the first watch, I wasn't sure like if like they were gonna kill off mom like that. Like, I thought maybe she might get roughed up, and they like narrowly escape or something, you know. But I didn't think that they were just going to be like, okay, one of our like lead characters on the cutting room floor right now, you know.
Yeah.
And like in front of daughter, like it was just like, dang, okay, so we're getting real.
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy.
And shoot, so dad ends up stumbling on, you know, bodies are there. He's like, okay, shit, this is real. Like, you're not kidding. We got to get back to your mom and sister. We got to like call the police. We got to like, you know, he's like Mr. Problem Solver. Like, okay, this and this need to happen. Let's do this.
Yeah.
They end up getting like attacked in their van, like by our new friend that we didn't know existed yet, Mr. Baghead.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a cinder block, right?
What was that?
Then they were in the car. Oh no, that didn't happen yet. Never mind. I'm going ahead, but they did. Yes, they had their first interaction with Sackhead. Yes.
Yes, and end up crashing into a trailer with the van, and God, and then we get hit right again, like right away, like another kill, like
yeah.
There's no slowing this train down. Like dad gets impaled by part of the porch or something, I guess, or like and you know, he has the son like go to the, he's like, get to your mom and sister, like, and get help, like I'll be fine. And in fact, we know he's not going to be fine.
Yes, we know that, unfortunately.
Because Sackhead decides to get in the car with him, and he like turns up the radio, and it's got like, I love the use of like 80s music in this film.
Me
like,
too.
It's like creepy because like they really didn't have to like change the songs at all. Like they didn't like, because you know, some movies will make their own edition of like the song, like they'll like change like the music a little bit and it adds to the song, but like these were just like, I feel like they were like the original tracks,
yeah,
how they were intended originally. And it just made it even creepier because like they're sitting there, he's like, Sackhead's looking at him, he has the radio turned up, and the dad's like, you know, don't do this, like why are you doing this to us? And like he's like slowly bleeding out and dying on this post that's in his like stomach.
Yeah.
And ends up like Sackhead ends up killing him as well, you know. I couldn't remember if that was with like a screwdriver or something. I can't remember what he found, but he did it with like something.
It was a screwdriver.
It was a screwdriver.
It was, like, and that's brutal too. It's like, you know, the poor dude is impaled by part of the porch.
Yeah.
You're blaring music, and then you like stab him to death with a friggin' screwdriver. Like it's ugh.
You've literally made his kids orphans now. They do not have a mom. They do not have a dad.
And
they don't have aunts and uncles.
Yeah, the whole family tree was completely uprooted. And I was thinking too, I'm like, okay, let's say you and I are the brother and the sister, and we see the dead bodies. My first reaction I wouldn't want to know questions. I'd be like, we need to get the people that we love in this car and get the hell out of here.
Right. You can call police from a safe place, have them go to that address, have them figure it out. Like, but we don't need to be in the vicinity for that. We know where the address is. We can send them to the right place, but we don't need to be here when it happens.
Exactly. And I know there would be no movie, but that's just my way. That's the problem with like those scenarios is you're going to run into problems. If you know two people have been brutally murdered, get out because you're probably next.
Right. Like that's a hint. That's like a prelude for things to come.
Exactly.
You take the omens and the stuff that you see, and you're just like, that should be a warning sign. You get out and you go, like, you don't go back to investigate. Like, I mean, but I understand, like, dad's like, you shitting me? Like,
yeah, really, did something really happen? Like, right. I'll believe my kid.
Right. like you could see it in their faces, like they were genuinely scared. Like
Yeah.
they're dead. So, but because you had to like go prove it, now you're dead.
Yeah. So that's the consequence of you prying.
Right. Here's a lesson for you kids. If you see dead bodies, you get the frick out of there. Like, no questions asked.
I've literally like talked to my kid about this stuff, not in like that sort of sense, but we're like, with horror movies, because she just went and saw Jaws. I'm like, if you ever saw like a man with a mask, don't ask any questions, just get out, get us and get out. I'll believe you. And she's like, really? I'm like, I would believe you if you told me that there was a demon in your room. Like, I'm going to be that parent that's going to believe her, because how many horror movies have we seen where the parents are like, oh, you're just seeing things, and then they're possessed by the devil.
Right. Like,
I'm gonna teach my kid.
Right. Eventually my kid will get that talk. Now everybody on YouTube, I don't know if anybody on YouTube knows yet, because Instagram just found out.
Yeah, excited for you guys.
Thank you. But my wife and I are having a kid, everyone. We're gonna have a like Halloween gender reveal, like a Halloween kind of theme gender reveal later this month. Because me, being Mr. Horror, like my wife was actually the one that's like, let's do it horror themed. Like, I know you love horror, and I'm like, you know me so well.
I'm honored. That's so cool that she did that, or that she like was all about that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they come up with. So the 24th, we'll find out the gender, and then I'll release that information. I have the feeling it's going to be a boy, but that's just speculation. We'll see. It could totally be wrong, and I'll have a little girl, and I'll be happy either way. But excited, just super excited. We've been trying for 3 years.
Oh, that's even better. That makes it so much better. That's amazing.
We've had our hurdles to get to this point. My wife has health things going on that have made it harder for us to have children. I won't go into details, but so this has been like a huge blessing in our lives, and I'm excited.
That's so exciting. I get so like emo when it comes to babies, because I know, like, I get it, it's especially with health problems, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like it just feels whatever. And then now it's like, it's happening.
Yeah.
And waiting.
Right. I'm like, March can't come soon enough.
Yeah. But I will say this though, like, you having the feeling, I was the same way. I'm like, it's a boy. It's a boy. I feel it. I know it. And like, I thought of all these boy names, and we had a girl.
Right. I'm prepared either way. We started compiling a list of girl and boy names. I'm cool with if it's a girl or boy. I think eventually we would love to have a boy and a girl. So, I mean, either way, if we end up with a girl now, that's cool. Maybe we'll end up with a boy later. If we don't, but like,
well, you have a girl now, and then you have your first son, then you kind of do have a boy and a girl.
Right. Yeah, sorry, I'm like getting us all like turned around here.
No, I'm happy that you said it though, because that's awesome. That's great news.
Yeah. So I just want to sprinkle in some facts here that I found out. I usually like to throw in some little fun facts here. So the film was actually first announced in 2009. So it literally was announced, and 9 years later we finally got it. I was like, holy crap. Like, that's kind of like the whole scenario with like Freddy versus Jason. You had Jason Goes to Hell and Freddy's claw coming up out of the sand and taking Jason's mask underneath. And that was like a precursor to they're like, okay, so these worlds are going to collide. Well, shoot, you didn't get a movie for forever. And before they finally brought it out, I think it was like in 2007 or 2004 or 2007. It was one of those years that Freddy versus Jason came out. It was like, holy crap, like people have been waiting and were like hoping for Freddy versus Jason for years. So like to think that these people were sitting on this premise and this film for like 9 years, it's like holy crap.
It's about time.
Yeah, right. There was a scene. So well, that when they do go to the trailer and see the aunt and uncle, there's a scene that Luke, the son, puts the gun down on a book, and the book is called "A Stranger Is Watching."
Oh, that's a very interesting fact, and I don't think that I noticed that, but I like that.
Yeah, I was like, huh. Being that the movie is The Strangers, like I'm like, I was like, huh, that was clever. Like, they always toss in those little things, and especially on first or second watch, you don't always pick up on that stuff. And another fun little fact, Sackhead is the only character in the movie with no dialogue.
Wow, he had a pretty easy role then.
Right? I mean, I kind of wonder what he would have sounded like. If we heard him talk, what would his voice sound like? Like, would he be burly and, like, you're going to die tonight? Or like, is he going to be like, yeah, have you ever seen Grown Ups?
Yes.
We're from Saskatchewan. Like, oh, Canada, yeah. Like,
that would have been perfect. You're going to die.
I'm going to stab you, okay?
They need to do that in some movie. Just this like big burly-esque killer, and then he'd be like, I'm gonna kill you, okay?
My plan is to cut you from head to sternum. It's gonna be very painful.
That would be chef's kiss. It needs to happen. But that's, I mean, the only one that really talked was Dollface 1. Right? She's the only one that said, why not? And she said Tara too. It's Tara Holmes. So she had the most dialogue.
Yes. And then like the other one talks when that scene where the daughter is hanging out in the tube.
Yes. That one scared me.
Shadows. Yeah. Yeah, that was creepy because like you had no idea she was there. Like I didn't even anticipate it. And being like a horror fiend, like you would have think like usually I map out the movie. I'm like, okay, here's the scenario we're in. This could happen. This could happen. I'm usually like that guy who thinks about everything, but like I didn't even think about it.
No, because you're like watching the truck fly up.
Yeah.
And you're so focused on that. And then you know what that reminded me of was in Halloween 2 and also in 1, but when he kind of like comes into the frame from the dark and how she just kind of like popped in and she was like, oh, what did she say? What did she say when she came in the tube? Was she like, we're just getting started or something of that nature? Wasn't it something along those lines?
I'm drawing a huge blank. I don't know why. I can't remember what she said, but it was only like a sentence long. It was like da 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 da. Yeah. And then like she's like, oh my God, like freaking out, like getting out of the tube, like, but yeah, she had a little dialogue. So like everybody had some sort of dialogue except for Sackhead. Yeah. So another, like, I guess we'll save these. I have a few more, but we'll save it.
Okay.
So you literally have brother and sister being like hunted down by these killers. Their parents are dead. They have no one. Their van's effed up. It, slammed through like that trailer and it's like out of commission essentially. It's like donezo. Yeah. And I think like my favorite scene coming up in this segment of the movie is the scene at the pool.
Mine too.
Like where the brothers like fighting Sackhead and like Total Eclipse of the Heart is playing.
That and even the cinematography, the lights, just everything about it. Because that's my favorite part too, was the pool scene. I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it because it's like neon, like all the neon going on.
All the colors,
like, and this scene, you think, holy crap, because Sackhead does end up cutting or like stabbing, the brother and leaving him bleeding out in the pool, and you're like, oh shit.
Like
Everyone's dead except for, you know, the daughter, and like now she's alone. Like you're like, I was like, oh no.
But that's my head went too, because I'm like, well, they so quickly killed mom and dad. I'm like, so of course it would be fitting to have us think that they're going to survive and have him be killed in the pool, which even when he got stabbed, I loved the blood that came out in the pool.
Right, because it like slowly started to spread out, and just kind of that whole atmosphere and vibe of that scene was just great. And so the police end up showing up to this trailer park because I think somehow there is a phone call made out to the police or something, because there's a reason they come. And well, that's cut real short. Officer gets his throat slashed. And I love it because like another song that's like playing during like this whole segment is like, you know, that whole "We're the Kids in America."
I love that song.
I'm like, the choice of music in this is so interesting. Like
it was,
you know, like they have a creepy score too, like that's going on throughout the film, but like then they toss in these 80s songs, and like you're just like, it throws you off because you're just like, you're like, what?
What would make you pick this song? But then you're sitting there watching it, you're like, what? It's kind of fitting. So
right, like I said, like yeah, totally Clips of the Heart, and that pool scene was just like, I don't know, it hit different. Like I've heard that song so many times in my life, but like hearing it in that scene and that circumstance was like, gave it a whole different like feeling. I was like, whoa.
So eerie, because like the way that they like pan up and all you see is the lights, and you know shit's about to go down, and then that it starts to play, and you're just like, it sets it up perfectly. I love that. That's what I think the most that I wrote about in my notes was that whole scene.
Yeah,
and we missed the one part too where and that was the other thing, that because I just thought of it when they're at the pool, when doll face 2 is like beelining for him, like it's a shot where you're just watching, and all of a sudden it just zooms in, and you're like, what's going, and then you see her coming at him, and I was like, it startled me. I was like, Jesus, like what is going on?
Right. And then that you're right, we totally skipped over that. Yep. And he ends up killing her, and he's like, how does that feel? One of yours. Like, you know, like he's like pissed. Like he's like, Mom and Dad, you've killed my parents. You know, you've literally effed up our family dynamic. Screw you guys. Like, I'm not having it anymore. And he like kills the one. He's like, yeah, look at that. We can dish it out too. You know, like, screw you. Like, it's your turn. Like, and I think that sets off Sackhead, like, for sure. Like, he was already going to kill him, but like, you could see the aggression. Like, he's like super pissed. Like, he went from like, I'm just going to kill you to, mother, you're going to die. Like,
your guts are going to be hanging out. Yeah. And I even did this during it when he said that. He's like, how's that feel? I killed one of yours. I was like, yes. Like, because, you know, they usually don't die. It's always like they, in this sense, they prevail and they kill everyone. But I love that. I thought that was, I love how they threw that line in.
Right. And so daughter is like, she's being like chased down, and like she ends up getting like attacked. She's in the police car and gets like attacked and like by his truck, and it ends up like his truck catches fire, or like there was like leaking, it was leaking, and yes. She like lit her lighter or whatever, and like, you know, lit the truck on fire. And so like you have this whole scene of her like limping towards like the bridge, because like she has no way out, like the Jeep that she was going to try to get away in, the police car, which actually that brings me to a good point. I felt very Scream esque in this scene when he taps on the window with the key, or they like the keys, like they tap on the window with the keys, and they're like, I'm like, that's totally Scream 1 when like Sydney's in the car and Ghostface is like, knock, knock, knock.
Yes, I wrote that.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, you wrote that down too?
I wrote it down because as soon as you heard the tap, 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 and then the jingle, I immediately went there. I'm like, that's such a nod to Scream.
Right.
But it's cool. They did that.
Right. That's cool that you and I both picked up on that. But so she's like limping down the road and like trying to get to this bridge. And he's coming after her still. Truck just up in flames. Like,
crazy.
And he ends up God, he goes after her like with his like all that he has left in him. He's burned, he's like effed up, and he's just like still coming after her. He's like, I'm gonna kill you with my last breath, whether you like it or not. I'm coming for you till the end. Like it's just like those real good like horror movie characters that are like they're in it to win it.
Yeah, they're ruthless. Like you're flaming. You're literally in flames, and your vehicle's in flames, but you're still trying to. Like I would let it go. I'd be like, all right, I give up.
Right, stop, drop, and roll out in the yard. I'm gonna be burned for the rest of my life, but I'm gonna live. Maybe.
I mean, I killed 3 out of the 4, so I mean that's pretty good numbers. Like, might as well try to save my own ass and not burn to death.
Right. And so she ends up freaking getting him too, and he ends up like, you think he's like dead. And she ends up catching a ride with a truck, or like this family, and she's in like the back of the truck, I think, and he's like still coming after her with the axe, and she like is like freaking out and knocks him off the back of the truck, and he like, you see his body kind of rolling as they're speeding off, and that kind of made me think of I don't know why, but this just now made me think of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like her in the back of like the like laughing like maniacally, like, oh my God, I made it. Like it just made me think of that scene.
Okay, I'm not even kidding, and I have my notes to prove it, and no one can see it, but I literally put Texas Chainsaw Massacre style swings the axe. I put it right in my notes. Right there, and I put the scream. Where was that one? But I literally thought the same thing. I'm like, I felt like throughout the movie when I like the tube scene, I felt like that was like a nod to Michael Myers. Then I felt like the keys with Sydney from Scream. And then this one, I'm like, it feels like they're kind of honoring the past slashers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I love when films do that. Like you pick up on those things and you're like, that was totally like, there's like, it feels like undeniable. Like you're like, that had to be like, if not intentionally, like still like, it just felt like so that like that Scream scene that totally, I'm like, come on, you're telling me you did not think about that didn't cross your mind, like
Where is it? I didn't put Scream, I put Ghostface, and I put it up in here, but I put the blood splatter from the cop, and then I put Ghostface.
Nice
Yeah, I just had to prove it because I love when we sync.
Yeah, we're definitely in sync. So she ends up, escaping, and our final scenes of this film are in the hospital. We find out brother is alive. He's probably lost a lot of blood, but he's made it. And like the last thing is like this knock on the door.
Of course.
And you can just see like the color drain from her face. It's like PTSD kicking in. And like, you're like, oh, shit. Like,
you know exactly what it's going to be.
And that's how it ends. I mean,
yeah. And I never enough to open like that because, we could jump to conclusions and think that, It's
Yeah.
Sackhead.
Right. Or, it's just the doctor. He's like, hey guys, how you doing? Like,
Want to see if you're alive? No big deal. I'm not the killer.
did you guys need some Jello? Like,
Yeah, a rough night.
I've got water. And so I have a few more facts. So Liv Tyler, for those of you out there who don't know who Liv Tyler is, daughter of Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, actress, known for a lot of films. She was in the first Strangers movie. Yeah. She was set to actually reprise her role in this movie. Oh, wow. And that ended up not happening. I'm glad that they chose like a different like setting, different people. I mean, they could have had a continuation, but like I was okay with them like changing it up and doing like a whole new group of people.
Yeah.
But she was going to be killed in the opening scene. So
I'm glad that they didn't do that then, because that would have been like, I mean, I get what they're trying to do, but I'm glad that they didn't do that.
Right. That's that whole like, Alice from Friday the 13th part 1. You see her in the beginning of part 2. She gets killed right there in the opening scenes.
Yeah.
Like you at first you're like, she's a final girl. This is, like at the end of the first one, you're like, hell yeah, she's gonna go to live her life. Things are gonna be great.
Yeah. And then nope.
Not even. But nope. I'm glad that they didn't go back to that. Like she gets her hopefully happily ever after somehow. I mean, she lost her husband or whatever in that first film, but I mean, she has a chance to restart her life over. She survived. God, yeah. She can go make a book. Make some money on a book. And another little last fun fact that I picked up was, so the director of this film, actually, he admitted to not liking slasher or home invasion films.
Really?
But yet he made a perfectly good one. Like
okay, so that kind of makes me feel like all of our connections to horror stuff probably wasn't meant to be if he didn't really care for. I mean, maybe, but
right, I don't know, like, but I feel like some of that stuff was too on the nose, like,
yes,
to not be like a nod. Like you can't just toss that out there and be like, nah, I really don't like care for these. I don't know this stuff. Like, well, yeah. You did your homework, because like there was some things that were definitely like, that Scream, that totally feels Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that feels like Halloween. Like you can't deny it. Like
even like the jump scares, the shots, the brutality of it. Like, I mean, maybe he was influenced by something else, but to me, it just screamed like slasher. And I thought maybe whoever directed it had a connection or some sort of liking for slashers, but hey.
Right. I mean, who knows, at the end of the day, maybe he just said that and he was actually really a closet horror freak,
Probably trying to act all nonchalant about it. But I think so. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun watch.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed that it didn't try to be more than what it was. Like it knew its lane and it stuck to it. And that's like the important thing. Yes. Is some movies try so hard to like be all these things and then they fall short. This movie knew exactly what it was doing, knew exactly its target audience, what it was like about, like how to get you with the jump scares, how to really like dig the knife in, like killing like the parents right away, like going balls to the wall, like the whole film, like, you didn't slow down. There was a little character development, but there wasn't like, they didn't drag it out. Like,
right.
Like I said, it knew what it was. Like, it wasn't trying to be anything more. It wasn't trying to be anything less. It was just like, here's a home invasion slasher horror film. Enjoy, And
it was from pretty much start to finish. And you're right. Like, it was exactly what it was supposed to be. I was engaged pretty much the whole time.
Yeah.
And not to be immature, but I'm going to be immature because this is just how I am. But I loved how they threw in, I have to read it, but when they were in the beginning, the brother was talking and she said, "You're a queef." And he's like, "Whoa, what's it?" Or the dad was like, "Whoa, what's a queef?" I'm like, who puts the word queef in a horror movie? Well, kudos to you. I was dying. I'm like, I have to bring it up.
And then the dad turns to turns to the wife. He's like, "No, really, what's a queef?"
And I'm so immature, but I was like, that's great. It's a great conversation.
Right? Nothing brings a family closer together than talking about queefs.
No wonder they had so many problems.
Right? Right. I don't even want to be there at some of the dinner conversations they probably had, like God knows.
I thought it was a good sequel, and that's the only one, right? There's no other it's just
yeah, I guess they had plans for another one that never happened, but yeah, it's just The Strangers and then The Strangers Pray at Night are the only two.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was definitely a good follow-up. The first one was like these people at their home, and it was like a whole different atmosphere. They were actually bound up and tortured essentially. This one, there was a lot of chasing and there was a lot of it was more free roam. There wasn't, you weren't secluded to one place. They were going from trailer to trailer to the office, to the pool, to the park. There was a lot going on. So they changed the formula for the second one for sure. I think the only thing that was consistent was, the fact that these people were breaking into or coming into someone's essentially home, even though it wasn't their home. And the fact that it was the three same characters, the Sackhead and the two doll faces from the original. Other than that, it was a whole different film and a whole different vibe. So
I like that they did that because, you see sequels and it's usually the same premise or a continuation of the same storyline, but, tweaked a little. But I liked how this was the same but different.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So that actually brings me to my next point. If you were to rank this film, and usually I say, between 1 and 10, let's actually change the grading system this time. We're gonna try something new. We're gonna give it school grades. So if you were to give this film, A to F, the pluses are okay too. You can be B plus or C plus or whatever, or C minus. What would you grade this film?
Well, for me, I think that I would, because I like cheese. I you know what I mean? I like a good horror movie, but I like the cheese. So this one was aesthetically pleasing. The music I loved, it set the tone, and the ruthlessness of it. So I would give it, I want to say either C plus or a B minus,
Okay.
in that range. I'm going to go with a B minus because it wasn't horrible. I liked that it was what it was. There wasn't a complicated storyline, and I thought it was creative. So I'm going to go with a B minus.
Heck yeah.
What about you?
I can feel that. I was going to give it just a flat B. Because like I said, it was fun, and it was it knew what it wanted to be. And it did its job, especially like I said, when we saw it in theaters, I went home and it had me thinking.
Yeah.
And, just like you said, the brutality, the fact that, it was like a nonstop train. It started and, there was so limited characters there. You had the family, the aunt and uncle, and then you had the police officer that was killed. So not an extremely high body count, but a very effective body count, because you literally left these kids orphaned, and brother's fighting for his life in the hospital by the end, and you thought he was dead too. So it was effective and very just right to the point. And I thought I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it again too, at home and the comfort of my home. I I'm really glad that we picked this. You know, it wasn't anything too complicated, and it wasn't anything that, you know, I don't see people talk about it a lot. Like, you know, like I love like a lot of the movies that we've been doing on this show have been, a lot of them have been more obscure or like
Yeah.
not as watched as frequent. Like, you know, I had Angel from Voices from the Mausoleum on. We did the Wolfman, like the remake.
Yeah.
And then, you know, BJ Mambo, we did the House of Wax. Like, whoever talks about the House of Wax, like, it's like, I like these movies that, you know, they're good. They're not like everybody's go-to, but like they're good. They're a good movie to watch. Like, you know, like a Friday night. Like it'd be fun to pop in, you know, curl up on the couch, have some popcorn,
Right.
and just envelop yourself. So yeah, I stand very firmly with a B.
Our fire alarm's going off. Oh, great.
Oh gosh.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Is this?
Oh, no worries.
Hold on 1 second.
Gosh, hope your house is not on fire.
The fire alarm's going off. Nothing's burning, is it? Okay, well. All right, I'm gonna go down. That was weird, Josh.
Yeah, I was like, I hope your house is not on fire.
Oh my God, that is so weird. Like it just went off on the top floor.
Huh.
That is so strange. Like it earlier, I was sitting down at like 8 to eat. What is going? I hope this doesn't get recorded that my house catches on fire.
Oh gosh. Well, you know, if they ask if it was on purpose, we'll have video proof. You're like, no, I had no idea. Like, I'm not trying to commit insurance fraud. No, or say nothing.
It's either that or like talking about like horror movies like provoked some spirit to like turn on the fire alarms because there's nothing on. Like
Yeah, that's
I don't-
weird.
and there's no smoke. Nothing smells like smoke.
Huh.
That's super strange. I'm sorry that it interrupted the episode.
That is okay. Like when I was on with Angel, like the train was going by out of my house and it's super loud. Like things happen. It's normal. It's fine.
The weird stuff happened because before too, it was like super dark out and I'm standing there and like I knew we were going to talk about this movie and I hear a knock like my door. Someone just started knocking on my door and I'm like, and I opened up the curtains because it's literally pitch black. My husband was jamming and I look out and I see a woman and I'm like, can I help you? And she's like, my kids are selling candy bars and I couldn't see the children. So I'm like, I'm not opening the door and getting stabbed. So I said, hold on, let me see if I had cash. And I turned the light on and there was 2 kids standing there. And I'm like, I don't have cash, but come back like in the daytime and I'll buy some. But like, why would you bring your kids around when it's pitch black?
Right? Like, first off, that's sketch. Second off, why you have your kids out at night? Like, what if like anything can happen out on the streets at night? Like,
that's what I mean. And I just thought it was super weird. And I'm like, I'm not, but that's me being, you know, like the horror person I am being like, I'm not falling for that shit. And I'm not going to come buy a candy bar and have you stab me. So no, I don't have any money.
You and your children from the corn, get the hell out of here.
No, the kids are looking at me. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like I didn't believe it, but
oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have just, you know, before we close out, I just would like, you know, to know, and I'm sure the viewers would love to know, what's next for Pretty Killer Podcast.
So like I said earlier, we're doing vacay. So there's going to be like a little lull in content, but not really because I want to like post while we're there. And I'm going to go live from Horror Nights from us walking around. So we'll be doing that this week. And then I just have some episodes to drop. Nothing like too crazy. And my season finale is going to be on Halloween.
Woo!
Woohoo! I
That's
like
my
counted it
deal.
out. Like, this is perfect. So there's going to be an amazing season finale. I'm not going to disclose too much, but it's going to be one for the books. Spooky season in full effect. So that's what I got going on.
Heck yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
exciting. I can't wait to see, you know, like well, one, your horror nights adventure.
Yes.
And then I'm excited to see what you guys drop next. So that's awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and chat with me and
Absolutely.
do this movie review. It means a lot.
Thank you for having me. I want you to come on my show. So we'll have to set that up, but I'm just happy that we finally got to chat, and I can't wait to see what baby, if you're having a boy or a girl. I can't wait.
For sure. I would love to come on anytime.
Yes.
We'll talk and figure something out for sure.
Absolutely.
And I will definitely keep you informed as soon as we know what the gender is. If we're going to have a little goblin or a little ghoul, we'll see.
I love goblin or ghoul. That's great.
But yeah, thank you again so much. I hope you have a great rest of your night. I can't wait to chat with you a little more soon. We're going to drop the episode tomorrow.
Perfect.
You guys know we're recording this Thursday night.
I'm sorry.
No, we're good.
I'll let everyone know tomorrow too. If everything's still standing with the fire alarms, my lord.
Right? Like, let's all hope that your house doesn't burn down in the events following this.
Yes, please.
But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And for you viewers out there, keep killing it out there, my friends. Just remember, don't get caught.